continuation to what Geneva had just discussed from the previous video, I will now proceed to the fourth method of getting balance for assembly operations, and that will be the improve operations. So when an operation is longer than the cycle time or balancing factor, it can be balanced by improving the method. However, if any case operation cannot be divided, extra studies should be made in regard to reducing its time. You might be wondering why this certain operation or method rather was made. That is because usually in plant layout, men um, usually spend time and effort far beyond that could help justify an operation, which is quite unfair in the worker's perspective. And number five, bank material induce lower operations and extra time. So from the term bank material, so that means we need to aggregate material, we need to have stockpiles. Although this sacrifices floor space, however, the brighter side of it would help increase material in process at the bottleneck operation. It adds extra handling work. It requires extra time of supervision and may interfere with maintenance work. Not possible with three-shift operation though, but since it's simple and is often used less in assembly than forming or treating, so that is why this method was also added. Number six, improve operator performance. Sometimes it is possible to balance an operation by identifying a bottleneck operation. And again, guys, bottleneck operation is a process or step that limits an entire system's capacity to produce at its optimum level. So, for a short term definition, it means congestion or overcrowding in production system. Like, for instance, he may pick the fastest or most able workman for it, or he may give added bonus to anyone on the tight operation to keep pace with the other operations. So that is why operator or the worker's performance should be improved for us to attain balance operations. And here are the essential data for getting good balance before production begins, and as follows. So I believe the points, the rate of production desired, and the necessary operations in their sequence were already discussed from Jen's video. So we are now going to dive in onto the elemental times for each operation. The elemental times for each operation. If, for example, we are to divide operation and assign portions of them to different workers, we need to have times for the various elements of each operation. Because the finer the elemental breakdown and taking the time studies, the more accurate can be the balancing. So the proverb here, focus one thing at a time, really can be relatable here on this element or essence. For this reason, predetermined motion times can give the best results in balancing manual operation. Why is that? That is for the fact that they give time for each individual basic motion, which can be used on entirely new operations when it is not possible to get a time study before production begins. So obviously, this is a great advantage to the man planning a new layout. When there's no way to get operating time values, it may be necessary to assign an estimated number of men and let them balance on their own operations. With a group bonus or gang piece rate, they will often work out a balance, though they may not exactly meet the rate of production wanted. So this one means that not all the time, or as pointed out, it's not all the time, it's not possible to get a time study before production begins. So that would be a great advantage for the operators to have their own discretion on how to balance their own operation. So that's why it's very important for the especially the sixth one on the methods, it's very vital to really train the operators or workers to improve their operations because they will have their time to have their own discretion again to decide on whatever is essential in regard to their operations. When the line is balanced, the operation balance chart can be drawn up to help control the man-hour assignment, as this tool will certainly shows the apportionment of time and is real assistance during the early production period. One further point about balancing in light operations, try to keep workmen at the head of the line rather than the discharge end to keep line always loaded. Psychologically, it helps them down the line, keep up to an improved pace. The line pull is more effective by having little to no delay at the starting end. Other considerations: method of payment. On a production line where a group is together and is working on a related product, group payment plan is preferable. If workmen get paid individually, the man on the lightly balanced operation will want as much as the other. So these are the other considerations to attain balanced operation, one of which is the method of payment. So of course, if you are going to um, give the salary or the payment to the operators, especially if it's in a group, of course, you should consider a group payment plan. While if it's, an individual, just by individual type of operation, then individual mode of payment as well would be preferable. Now, vice versa lang ba? So general rule for incentives, we have here individual incentives for process layout, group incentives for line production, individual or group incentives for layout by fixed position depending on the group size and repetitiveness of the job. Psychological or personal consideration. Psychological effects may alter a layout. For instance, in a plant where the work is a highly repetitive nature, the monotony of doing the same job over and over again can be a handicap to effective production. Workers dislikes lines or layouts that have these points. One that limits personal output, restricts opportunity for self-improvement, no sense of security, paces rate of work, and reduces personal freedom. So other factors that should consider when it comes to plant layout, if you're really aiming for balanced operation, is of course psychological or personal considerations. Many of us workers can definitely relate to this, especially if your job is just a repetitive type of job. So the monotony of doing the same job is quite endearing, quite wearying. So it's really would be a great consideration if one should take note of these points to attain balance operation. Workers prefer lines or layouts that have these points. Work is usually easier, more companionable, more uniform, more regular, or steady, and it should require less planning or mental work. Of course, and this organization and supervision. The best layout is useless if it does not fit the organization of the company, right? Organization chart often establishes the overall layout plan should be like, and layout men should examine it upon planning the layout. Layout men should never assume that the men involved can adjust themselves to the new layout without difficulty. So this one's very important to consider, or other, factor to consider when it comes to planning a layout, because not all workers can adjust so easily when it comes to, or in when it comes to adjusting to a new layout or a sudden change of layout. So you should consider what would be the best fit for an organization. In every case, a new layout calls for adjustment. Layout men should be sure that the people involved can be relocated. In cases of conversion from one basic type of layout to another, the layout may call for a complete change in the state of mind of the entire organization. Changeovers from process layout to fixed position layout to production lines are cases where management's philosophy must be altered. Such change can cause a virtual revolution in any plant. It will involve planners and schedulers, buyers, inspection force, et al. So, the main takeaway of this factor, which is man, is the biggest point about a man and layout is for all persons to feel they are a part of it. Participation in planning the layout, be it only of minor details, leads to more acceptance of the new plan. The success of a layout often depends as much of how well it is accepted as on how efficient it is. So that will be all. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this report. Be safe.